Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the film House on Haunted Hill, which is an American film produced in 1959 starring Vincent Price. It is a horror film about an eccentric millionaire called Frederick who invited 5 people to stay the night in the mansion that he was renting, and anyone who stayed in his mansion until the following morning would earn $10,000. 5 people were invited to this party. One of them was a psychiatrist, the other one was a pilot, the other one was a journalist, and then the owner of this house, and then an employee of one of Frederick's companies. All 5 people were strangers to each other. They have never met before. And the rules to that, anyone who wanted to give up to spend the night in his mansion were supposed to do so until midnight, when the caretakers would lock the house, and the house has barred windows, no telephone, no radio, and it would be impossible to leave after midnight. And Frederick was married to his 4th wife, and she was called Annabelle. And we can see that the marriage of Frederick and Annabelle was really tense, because Frederick stubbornly thought all the time that Annabelle wanted to poison him and keeps all his money just for herself. And Annabelle replied that Frederick thought that just because he was pathologically jealous of her. And time passed, and one of the women among the 5 guests, Nora, she seemed to be more haunted by the ghosts of the house than anyone else. Because the mansion of Frederick, it was a typically haunted house, and the owner of the house, who was one of the 5 guests, he was certain that there were ghosts in the house. And he kept saying that to the other guests all the time. Time passed, and one of the 5 guests, a woman called Nora, seemed to see the ghosts more often than the other guests. And she was being really scared, nervous, hysterical. And we should remember that one of the guests was a psychiatrist, and his specialty was hysteria. So Nora, she said that she saw ghosts all the time, more than anyone else, and that it was driving her crazy. And then suddenly she saw the body of Annabelle. She had hanged herself and presumably took her own life. However, there was a suspicion that maybe Annabelle was actually murdered, because there was no place that she climbed before she was hanged. So it gave the impression that somebody murdered Annabelle and left her there. At the same time, Nora was kind of strangled while she was in her bedroom, and she had a suspicion that Frederick had murdered both Annabella and tried to murder her too. And she was being crazier and crazier, more stressed than ever. But then we have a new data. Annabelle was in her bedroom, and she received one of the guests, who was the psychiatrist, and they were secretly lovers. So it turned out that Frederick's suspicions of Annabelle, they were justified. And what was the plan of Annabelle and the psychiatrist? They were driving Nora completely crazy, so she would be very stressed, suspect that Frederick wanted to kill her and that he had killed Annabelle. Actually, Annabelle never took her own life. No one took Annabelle. She just faked her own death. And then she, together with the psychiatrist, after Frederick was murdered by Nora, Nora would be arrested, and both Annabelle and the psychiatrist would have the money of Frederick just for themselves. However, the house was presumably haunted, and we can see some weird things there. One of those stuff is a kind of swimming pool of acid in the basement, which the owner of the house showed to the other guests. And then, after Nora was being so stressed, she indeed shot Frederick. Because when people started being too scared about the ghosts, Frederick gave a gun to each guest. So each guest had a gun, so they could defend themselves in case they saw a burglar, a ghost, or whatever. So Nora was one of the guests, and she had indeed the gun. And then she shot Frederick. And then, after hearing the noise, Annabelle went to the basement to confirm if Frederick was really dead. However, out of this swimming pool of acid, there was a kind of skeleton with Frederick's voice and saying that he knew that all along, and so on. Annabelle was horrified, deeply scared, thinking it was the spirit of Frederick, and then she fell accidentally inside the swimming pool with acid. And the psychiatrist, who was his lover, had the same fate. Then, after a while, Nora confessed that she shot Frederick. But then we can see that Frederick was very well alive, fine, thanks. And the skeleton that was in the swimming pool with acid, it was actually a puppet that Frederick was manipulating. Then Frederick told that the gun with Nora had no real bullet. This is why he was alive and wasn't hurt at all. And then, in the end of the film, Frederick told the guests that he knew Annabelle was plotting to kill him together with her lover, and the party was actually a plot, a kind of trap, so he could kill her instead. And he said that the courts, the human justice, would decide if he was guilty of the death of Annabelle and her lover or not. The plot is really, really intelligent because until the end of the film, we wonder what the hell is going on, why the house is haunted, who are those ghosts, if those ghosts exist after all. And in the end, we have a plot twist with Annabelle because we thought all along that Frederick was the weird one, and then it was something completely different. So I really think you are going to enjoy this film. It's a classic. Vincent Price in horror films, he always acts wonderfully. That's all for now, folks. See you.